Not only did God give the Ten Commandments, He continued to give various moral laws and worship laws and descriptions to them, and help them to understand some civil laws because they were now being constituted as a nation. And they stayed at this place called Mount Sinai for approximately 12 months. After 12 months, almost an entire year, God comes to them and speaks these words that we find recorded in Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse number 6. The Lord our God said to us at Horeb, you have stayed, notice this phrase, long enough at this mountain. Break camp and advance. Let's stop there just for a moment. God said, you've been in this place for long enough. It's been 12 months. He doesn't specifically refer to the amount of time there, but he says, you've been where you are right now long enough, and here's my instruction to you. I want you to break camp, and I want you to advance, or I want you to go forward. There's something ahead for you, and you'll never reach it if you stay where you are. And then he describes where they are to go. Into the hill country of the Amorites, go to all the neighboring people, in the Arabah, in the mountains, in the western foothills, in the Negev, and along the coast, to the land of the Canaanites, and to Lebanon, as far as the great river, the Euphrates. See, I have given you this land. He was referring here to the promised land, the land of Canaan. See, I've given you this land. Go in and take possession of the land. The Lord swore He would give to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to their descendants after them. God says you've been at this place long enough. Break camp. There's something in your future. I believe that God is speaking to each one of us here today, and those of you who are watching online, that God's saying you've been at certain places in your life long enough. It's time to break some camp and to advance, because God has something incredible for your future, and you'll not find it unless you go forward. And Deuteronomy chapter 2 is similar set of instructions given by God, a different circumstance. By the time we come to chapter 2, it's describing the time where the children of Israel have now been wandering in the wilderness for 40 long years, and they've not yet made it into the promised land. And God comes to them again. The Lord said to me, this is to Moses, you have made your way around this hill country. Familiar phrase, what? Long enough. Now turn north. And north was the direction of the promised land. So once again, after 40 years of wandering around in the wilderness, they still not made their way to God's destiny for them. And God says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to realize you've been going in this circle long enough. It's time to turn north. It's time to go forward. It's time to head into your promised land. And today, as God is speaking to us and calling us forward, we have to make decisions, because just as those folks had to make a decision as to whether they would go forward, you and I have to make decisions as well. When God speaks for us to go forward, we can either stay right where we are and resist that decision. We can actually, instead of going forward, go backward in our spiritual journey. But the blessing of God in your life is not behind you. It's not right where you are right now. The blessing of God in your life happens when you begin to move forward in your spiritual journey, when you begin to break camp and you begin to advance. Weekend before last, I gave you the first fact that we